Okay. So what we'll do is I want to give you some time to go through and follow the exact steps that I just did, which was one, identify where an input validation needs to exist. So we're talking a put, we're talking a post. Two, identify what the resource is, so a product or an update. The reason you got to do that is because you have to go to the schema to understand what it is on that resource that you can create, that you need to create, or that you can use to update, so you know what validations to make, right? And then lastly, create an input validator or many input validators for that route. So remember, this is middleware, so I can add as many of them as I want. It doesn't matter, I just gotta add a comma. So you can add as many of those as you want, or you can put them in an array. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be one, as long as they come after the route and before the handler. Let's just go ahead and validate these routes. So first thing I'm going to do is, I noticed that this piece of code here, where we get the validation results, we check to see if the errors are there, and if they are, we send back a 400 with the errors. That's going to be the same no matter what route. I mean, there's nothing specific to product in this piece of code anywhere. It's just going to be the same no matter where you do this. So I'm actually going to turn this into a middleware that we can use after our validation middleware, so I don't have to rewrite every single time. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go into our modules. I'm going to make a new file called middlewares, or middleware, I guess. I don't know if that's plural or not. Whatever. And I'm going to export a new function here. I'm going to call it handle input errors, I guess, something like that. And it's going to be middleware, right? And all it's going to do is this. It's going to copy this code here, bring it over, import validation result. And if that's not the case, then it'll just call next to go on to the handler. So now all I have to do is just add this handle input errors middleware after any of the input middleware that I'm going to write for any of the routes. Again, this is just like one of a million ways. We're going to talk about error handling later. That's probably going to contradict this. Like, there's just so many different ways on how to handle things, and they're all very flexible. So this is just how I see it, because I would hate to have to copy and paste this so many times and then go back and like, oh, actually, I want to send back a 402 for some reason, and then I got to go change 402 everywhere. 400 to 4. Like, it would just suck to do that over and over. So I'm just going to put it in its own little thing. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the router, and I can get rid of this thing here. And instead, I can say handle error inputs, like that. And it should do the same thing. So I'm going to give that a try just to make sure that that works, and then we'll continue on. So I'm going to start my server. Go back to Thunder Clients, try to do this again, and yeah, it still works. Everything still works the same. So this is a great use case of middleware, of just sitting, before a handler, trying to protect it. Because the thing I'm always optimizing for, the thing I'm always thinking about, is like, how do I ensure that the handler is only doing business logic and nothing else? I just don't want it to do anything else, because it's, once you actually start writing like big handlers, like, oh, this thing has to create a user, and then it has to create a customer on Stripe, and then it has to subscribe them to a subscription, and then it has to send off analytics. Like that handler is just going to get so beefy. Like the last thing that I want to do is like, and you also got to check for inputs, and you also have to do a log, and you also have to do, like, it just gets tedious. And then if you want to change how you report to analytics, but you wrote it in 30 different handlers, we have to change it in 30 different places. Whereas if you wrote it in one middleware, you only got to change it in that one middleware. Okay, so the next one would be a post for a product. So what do you need to create a product? I don't know. Let's see. I think we need a name, and we need a belongs to ID. Okay, now let me ask you this. Should the user send up the user ID along with the name that we'll associate this product with? Should we trust the ID that the user sends up as the ID that we associate this product with? Why not?
Because they can send anything. We can send my ID.
Right, they can send anyone's ID.
Never trust the user.
Right, not so right. We don't want them to send us an ID. The ID that we're going to assign to this product is the ID of the signed in user, which is, remember, we already have, and this is the power of middleware. We already have a middleware that does that, right? Like if we go to auth, that's what this protect middleware does. It figures out who is the user that's making the request, right? And it attaches it here to rec.user. So if we needed to know what ID to add to the product, it would be on rec.user.id and not rec.body.id, because we can't trust that ID. That can be any ID. And if we just assign that to the product, some user is now creating products for another user. Like, I don't know why they would do that, but that's what would happen. Because we have a multi-tenant database, we have to be very careful about whose information we're touching and ensuring that it's scoped to the signed in user. So when it comes to user information, only ever trust this user. Don't trust the user information that they're sending up, because you just don't know. But yeah, so that was a tricky one, but it comes with lots of mistakes. I remember I made this product one time that did not do things like that, and people were just changing each other's stuff all the time, and I was like, I have no idea what's going on. It's because I just didn't do those checks, and yeah, it was very, very wild. Okay, so for that just means we won't be doing a check for belongs to. Like, that's not something we want to check for, because we don't want you sending that at all. In fact, we could probably do a check that says if you do send it, like, throw an error, but we're not going to check for that. So instead, we're just really just going to use the same thing. There's a name and handles input errors. So we'll do that. And then we'll keep it moving for update. So for update, we got to put, update's a little more sophisticated than a product, because it has a title, a body, status. Well, status is default, so I guess that's not required, at least. And then version and asset are also not required. And then it has a product ID. Now, should we trust a product ID that a user would send up to associate with this update? This is a trick question, seeing how I just talked about how not to trust users.
We can, but we need to check whether this product belongs to that user or not.
Exactly. Yes, we can trust it only if we verify that the product ID that they sent up actually belongs to the user that is making the request, and then we can associate it. Because we actually don't have any other place to get the ID, so you would have to give it to us. We don't know what product you want to assign this to. So yeah, we can, but then we also have to verify. So it's just like those little things that have to happen, and this is why I try to keep the handlers very light, because you have to do all this stuff inside of them. And the last thing you want to do is, like, I'm also checking to see if they sent me a field. So yeah, I see you've been in the trenches before.
I already burned my fingers. So.
Right. So for put, on update, we want, yeah, so all the things you can update on an update would be a title, a body, a status, a version, an asset. Probably not going to let you update the product because that just, an update belongs to a product. Why would it belong to another product eventually? That's kind of weird. I can't even think of a UI that would say change, like, no, that wouldn't even make sense. So we won't add that to update. So let's go back to our route here and let's do that. So I'm going to say body, title. Oh wait, did I get rid of that? Oh, there we go. Body title. We have, I think there's like an exists. Yeah, so you could do like exists, but I think we want these to be like optional. So body, is there like a is optional? Oh, I think there's optional by default. Oh no, there it is, optional. There we go. Okay, so we got that, and then we have body, body. I was like, I know it's called something. And then that's also optional. And then we have body, what was the other one? Status, version, and asset. Status. Version. And asset. Well, I guess asset would be different because this would be like an image upload and you wouldn't know the URL for it, so maybe not. That's like something different. It's like you're gonna upload something. Okay, this thing's super long. Let me just bring this on to the next line. Okay, and that's still, there we go. So as you see, yeah, this is just getting long. This is why, like, as we said earlier, you probably want to like put this in another file or something like that. So it's not just, you know, for the same thing of like maintaining your handlers and keeping them light. You probably want your routes to just to do route stuff and not have like all this fluffy middleware stuff hanging around. So maybe you would put this somewhere else in like a inputs, it's separate inputs file and you just import them in. Had to do that before. Yes.
With status, don't we have to validate to make sure it's one of the options provided? Or do we let Prisma handle that?
That was literally just about to ask that question. Great question. I was going to ask if anyone handled that with status being an enum or not. Anyone figure out how to only choose one of the different types of statuses that's possible for an update, which in this case would be in progress, shipped, or deprecated? No? No one tried it? Well, I do believe that there is a .1, it's like one of, I believe. Or, pretty sure there's like a, let's see. Pretty sure there's a .1, or I'm sorry, I think you gotta do one of first, there we go. So one of, and then you can say body, let me see, what's the names of them? There we go, like in progress, shipped. Progress, oh, you gotta put an array, I'm sorry. There we go. So in progress, body, shipped, and then body, what was the last one? Deprecated? Yeah. So yeah, that's how you would say that. So it would just be one of these.
I also think optional's a method call.
Is it? Oh, yeah. I guess that makes sense that you could do chaining.
One last note, version, line 31, missing the S.
So the one-offs, do we still have to refer to the status?
Yeah, so I think the way that it works is you can say status first like this, and then comma, one of. There you go. As you can see, this can get pretty crazy. Like the more complicated these get, the more you can just like rely. They have like where you can just write a schema, and you can just like check it against an entire schema if it starts to get like too complicated like this. So that's another way to do it as well. Thought about doing it that way, but for the most part, it's an overkill. Okay, and then for post, it's pretty much the same thing, except for some of these things just aren't optional. So I'm just gonna just copy this whole thing. And can you go to the next line? Thank you. Yeah, it's almost the same thing, except for like, yeah, the title is definitely not optional. You have to give us a title, which is going to be exists, and you have to give us a body, which exists. You can say it's string too if you want. If you want to go all in on it. There's really no limit to it. For the status, you don't have to give a stat because we do a default one, so that's fine. We also do the version is also default, so I think that's fine as well. And what is that? Okay, I gotta look into that. But yeah, I think we're fine with just these two here on that. And then for update point, if we go look at those, we just need a name and a description. For the update. So let's do that. So for put on the update, we could just say body name dot optional dot is string. If you really want to get all that in there. And then body dot, or I'm sorry, description dot optional dot is string. And let me break these down on multiple lines. Okay. And then lastly, for creating an update point, we'll just do this. Pretty much mostly the same. The only difference is you would have to send up the update ID. So body update ID dot exists dot is string, and these are not optional anymore. There we go. I actually think there's a better way to do one of, and I want to look it up because it's bothering me. So,
yeah, chat's reporting a couple of errors with one of.
Yeah.
And if you check the documentation on it, there's a check method.
I guess you don't even really need one of. That's what I was trying to figure out. I think you could just do body status is in, and then you can do that. So it's like, it's got to be one of these if I can spell status. Like this. So you can say in progress, shipped, deprecated. I think it's how I've always done it. The one of thing, pretty cool, but never really used that one.